by both sides were very similar. What usually determined the regiment or the allegiance was the flag that the army marched under. That determined whether they were Royalist or Parliament. So once in the battle, you'd always look for the colour to follow to identify which side you were on.
You were on, yes.
And you can imagine it got a little bit chaotic in battles. So it was one of those violent affairs where a lot got maimed and killed and left on the battlefield.
Yes, to die.
To die, because obviously medication then was very limited. So the whole idea was to try and avoid getting injured.
Yes, yourself.
By injuring your opponents first.
Well, you've got a lot of protection with that helmet, haven't you?
I have, yes. It's nicely rounded, covers the face, protects with the point.
I do like this a lot because it gives you.
What are you cooking? We're cooking. We've got some mutton. Do you want to tell her? We've got some mutton under here.
We have a shoulder of mutton that was left over, so we've covered it in some herbs to make it taste a bit better.
You know this gent.
And then we're doing some leeks, onions, bit of wild garlic,
a few carrots,
some new potatoes that were quite relatively new in the time. Then also rendering off some fat from the mutton, and we've got some leftovers from yesterday, bringing back to heat. I'm going to mix it all together, and well, those who come back from the battle can have something to eat. Those who happen to die are a bit hungry.
If they come back.
If they come back alive, if they come back in a box, they can't have none. More for the others.
They can have some breakfast though. We've got a lot of breakfast going on.
A lot of breakfast going on. Some old ham that needs eating, some stale cheese,
a few apples,
crabby apples, and some hot stale bread.
Thank you.
Yeah, and some bread. Go get your clothes.
Just a sec.
That's a 17th century tune called Daphne. It's from the tune of a song about the mythological story of Apollo and Daphne. It's played on the tenor recorder.
If it works, you get your eyesight back. If it doesn't, you are going blind anyway, and there's no refunds on the fee. So, but the more common one is this one. Everybody's aware that the body has 4 basic elements that balance out, and one of the 4 elements is blood. You see people, often from certain parts of the world. So, some people are very red-faced, always hot and angry, and they're called a sanguine character. Yes. So a sanguine character has a surfeit of blood, and the easiest method is get out my bleeding bowl, and we put the bleeding bowl, tap the phlegm into the arm, and take a bowlful off. And once you've had the bowl full of blood taken out, but you're not a hot red-faced looking person, so you probably don't need it.
And what the trained bandsmen are, I mean, because of course there's no standing police force or standing army, what you've got to have is the people who are willing to look after the town. So of course, if you've got a stake in it, if you own a shop, you don't want people rioting and causing, because they might be breaking your windows, taking your stock. Yeah. So you'd be expected to turn up as a trained bandsman. So they would recruit you, you would volunteer for it. But the thing is that you had to buy your own stuff. So of course, but you want to impress your mates. So of course, what you would do, you wouldn't buy the cheapest stuff going. You would go out and you would buy something expensive. So people would look at you and say, wow, you can afford that. That must mean you're a successful businessman. Yeah, the matchlock musket, that comes first.
A musket.
And then you get this. This is the flintlock. This then changes. They change the name of this later as well. They call this a firelock. Does the name change? But it's the same basic thing. I mean, that design of the flint hitting the frizz, causing a spark and making it go bang, you know, that doesn't change now for about 200 years. Yeah. Not until you get to the percussion cap guns.
Yeah. Right, what I'm actually in the process of making leather bottles. Okay. So vessels like this were leather and wood and horn were the everyday materials that day-to-day objects were made out of. To actually produce something like that, you need to stitch your leather. So these pieces are cut out. It's 2 pieces of vegetable tanned leather put together. I will then double stitch it all the way round using linen thread and beeswax to soften the linen. Once it's double stitched, the whole thing is put in water, and then it has to be packed with sand, so it becomes from a flat shape to what you would recognise as a bottle. At that point it then dries out. At that point it is still not waterproof, and it's still going to be fairly flexible, so it'll be soft like this, and it will just absorb, soak up any water going. To waterproof it, I put beeswax in and heat it up, so it's a mixture of letting the beeswax, molten beeswax, soak in and brushing it on. There's a piece of beeswax, and a quantity like that will be used to waterproof and harden the finished item.
This is an infantry helmet, and the cavalry did use them, but with this you can gambol in it. Right. Yeah, this is actually German. Excuse me. It's a bit sweaty here.
In the 17th century, it was a quiet time. And then we come along and we make a lot of noise.
Prepare to give fire! Have a care! Give fire!
I'll hand you to Sean, who's going to explain about the cavalry.
Yeah!
over there. Can you see where?
As the pikemen move on, you get a better idea of how they're equipped and what they're wearing. I'll give you a rough idea of what they're for. In their hands, they've got a 14-foot length of ash, tipped with steel. The ash is there to provide strength and flexibility and not break. The steel is a spear point that goes through armour when driven hard, and is there to protect the pikeman from horse and to protect the pikeman's musketeers from horse. The pike are the muscle arm of the Civil War. They're there for grunty hand-to-hand in close fighting. These initial skirmishes are intended to give the rest of the armies time to form up. They're not really there to kill, they're there to cause nuisance. The cavalry keep each other occupied, the infantry force Stinks has moved his troops out. He's a very taciturn man from Yorkshire, doesn't say much. You can see in front of most of the columns are drums and colours. They're vital. To show their bravery, the ensigns will march out in front of their blocks and flourish the colours. This is the 17th century equivalent of come and have a go. If you think you have the courage and the bottle, you have to come and take this from me. I've got mates who'll protect me. Their commissions were bought by their fathers if they were young, or sometimes, in the case of the ensign on my left, they're a grizzled, experienced trooper who's managed to get the flag through some act of insane bravery. As they march, you'll be able to hear the drums. Pikes come to engagement, you'll see them getting up close. The reason for this is twofold. If you've got a piece of steel pointing at your face, if you get past it, it's no longer going to hurt you. You've got a lot of people behind you forwards. Contest. It shows who's the strongest, who's the bravest, who is the most willing. As they do that on the flanks, musketeers are better at fighting with shot and are moving all forward in hand-to-hand combat. The Parliament horse is still trying to harry the Royalist musketeers, but they are in turn being threatened and aggressed by the Royalist Cavalry. unless the Royalist commander can plug that gap, I fear it is all over. To the enemy, they do not turn their backs. Leaving a few dead behind them. Unlike 350, 370 years ago, our dead can get up again, and how you get them up is give them a round of applause. They're ordinary men and women, and the sealed knots, like them, are made of ordinary men and women.